गजानन
जय जय गिरिजा बाल गजानन
जय जय गिरिजा बाल गजानन
जय जय गिरिजा बाल गजानन
जय शिव शंकर पार्वती नंदन
शिव शंकर पार्वती नंदन
जय शिव शंकर पार्वती नंदन
शिव शंकर पार्वती नंदन
जय जय गिरिजा बाल गजानन
जय जय गिरिजा बाल गजानन
विघ्न विनाशक विजय गजानन
विघ्न विनाशक विजय गजानन
विघ्न विनाशक विजय गजानन
विघ्न विनाशक विजय गजानन
शरवण सेवित सुमुख गजानन
शरवण सेवित सुमुख गजानन
शरवण सेवित सुमुख गजानन
शरवण सेवित सुमुख गजानन
तव पद शरणं शरणं 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 गजानन
जय जय गिरिजा बाल गजानन
जय जय गिरिजा बाल गजानन
जय शिव शंकर पार्वती नंदन
शिव शंकर पार्वती नंदन
जय जय गिरिजा बाल गजानन
जय जय गिरिजा बाल गजानन
विघ्न विनाशक विजय गजानन
विघ्न विनाशक विजय गजानन
शरवण सेवित सुमुख गजानन
शरवण सेवित सुमुख गजानन
तव पद शरणं शरणं गजानन
तव पद शरणं शरणं गजानन
तव पद शरणं शरणं गजानन जय जय गिरिजा बाल गजानन
अल्लाह नाम भजो भजो रे भजो मौला नाम भजो भजो रे भजो
अल्लाह नाम भजो भज रे भजो मौला नाम भजो भज रे भजो
अल्लाह नाम भजो भजो रे भजो मौला नाम भजो भजो रे भजो
अल्लाह नाम भजो भज रे भजो मौला नाम भजो भज रे भजो
नानक येसु महावीर नाम 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 भजो
श्री बुद्ध देवा भजो भजो रे भजो शिरडी साई बाबा भजो भजो रे भजो
बुद्ध देवा भजो भज रे भजो शिरडी साई बाबा भजो भज रे भजो
श्री बुद्ध देवा भजो भजो रे भजो शिरडी साई बाबा भजो भजो रे भजो
बुद्ध देवा भजो भज रे भजो शिरडी साई बाबा भजो भज रे भजो
श्री रघुराम भजो गोविंद कृष्ण 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 भजो
श्री सत्य साई भजो भजो रे भजो
श्री सत्य साई भजो भज रे भजो
श्री सत्य साई भजो भजो रे भजो
श्री सत्य साई भजो भज रे भजो
अल्लाह नाम भजो भजो रे भजो मौला नाम भजो भजो रे भजो नानक यीशु महावीर नाम भजो
नानक यीशु महावीर नाम भजो
श्री बुद्ध देवा भजो भजो रे भजो शिरडी साई बाबा भजो भजो रे भजो
बुद्ध देवा भजो भजो रे भजो शिरडी साई बाबा भजो भजो रे भजो
श्री रघुराम भजो गोविंद कृष्ण भजो
श्री रघुराम भजो गोविंद कृष्ण भजो
श्री सत्य साई भजो भजो रे भजो
श्री सत्य साई भजो भजो रे भजो
श्री सत्य साई भजो भजो रे भजो
सत्य साई भजो
अल्लाह नाम भजो रे भजो मौला नाम भजो भजो रे भजो
Om Shri Sai Ram, offering our most loving pranams at the lotus feet of our Divine Master. Respected elders, dear delegates from all over the world, brothers, sisters, students, and devotees watching us live from around the world. Welcome to the inaugural session of the World Youth Meet 2016. Bhagwan has very graciously blessed the youth of the world to be at his lotus feet for one whole week, to guide, to direct, and to inspire us on this journey of ours of spirituality and, more importantly, self-transformation.
Swami, on behalf of all the youth of the world, those who are present today, as well as those who have not been able to make the journey, we offer our most sincere and heartfelt gratitude to you, Swami, for your love, your compassion, and for making our lives meaningful and giving it a purpose. The theme for this World Youth Meet 2016 is bend the body, mend the senses, end the mind. This is the royal path to immortality by developing humility through service, one-pointed devotion towards God, developing a perfect dharmic character, and experiencing selfless love and truth, free from bondage and attachment.
On behalf of all of us gathered here, may we please seek Bhagwan's blessings to light the inaugural lamp and inaugurate the World Youth Meet 2016.
Shanti, Shanti, Shanti.
We also pray to Bhagwan to unveil the logo of the World Youth Meet 2016.
We would now like to offer our loving gratitude to all the dignitaries seated on stage. Firstly, Padma Shri Venu Srinivasan, the Chairman and Managing Director of the TVS Group.
Srimati Malika Srinivasan, Chairperson and Chief Executive Officer of TAFE Tractor and Farm Equipment Limited.
Father Charles Ogada, the founder and president of the Spirit and Self-Awareness Initiative.
Dr. K.P. Sailila, Chairperson of all the girls' institutions.
Shri P. Narayan Rao, Secretary of the Shri Sathya Sai Lokaseva Trust, Muddenahalli.
Shri B.N. Narsimhamurthy, Chief Mentor, Shri Sathya Sai Lokaseva Institutions. On the evening of November 17th, when Swami delivered his divine discourse, he said, "We will begin this week's long celebrations by doing Grama Seva." He said, "Love all, serve all." And it is clearly evident that the Lord of the universe is on an accelerated mission of practical spirituality. The Lord is not interested in just lip service, but in translating his teachings into serving those in need, and how we are going to be putting all of this in practice in our everyday lives. He's the personification of love in action, and this is what he expects each and every one of us to be.
Dear devotees, these are indeed exciting and blessed times. But with this incredible opportunity comes much responsibility. We all must realize and internalize that the projects that Swami is executing will guide mankind into the golden age and will serve as an inspirational blueprint for the world to follow. Time and again, Bhagavan has very clearly stated that the youth of the world must drive his mission forward and be at the forefront of these projects. And dear youth, nothing will make our Lord happier than to see his children becoming true change agents to usher in the golden age. We will commence this morning's program with a multi-faith invocation. 9 faiths will be represented and will offer their prayers, beginning with Hinduism, Christianity, Buddhism, Islam, Jainism, Zoroastrianism, Sikhism, Judaism, and Japanese Buddhism.
प्रमदितव्यं धर्मान प्रमदितव्यं कुशलान प्रमदितव्यं भूत्यैन प्रमदितव्यं स्वाध्याय प्रवचनाभ्यां न प्रमदितव्यं देवपितृकार्याभ्यां न प्रमदितव्यं मातृदेवो भव पितृदेवो भव आचार्यदेवो भव अतिथिदेवो भव यान्यनवद्यानि कर्माणि तानि सेवितव्यानि नो इतराणि यान्यस्माकं सुचरितानि तानि त्वयोपास्यानि ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः हरिः ॐ तत्सत् श्री साईश्वरार्पणमस्तु।
Make me an instrument of your peace. Where there is hatred, let me sow love. Where there is injury, pardon. Where there is doubt, faith. Where there is despair, hope. Where there is darkness, light. Where there is sadness, joy. O Divine Master, grant me not so much that I may seek, to be consoled as to console, to be understood as to understand, to be loved as to love. For it is in giving that we receive. It is in pardoning that we are pardoned. It is in dying that we are born again into eternal life.
Ad tampavaro manu Yesu Sathya muni bhagava kata kicho Paragatu bala virya samangi Tansuga tangsara nattamu pemi Raga viraga maneja masukang Dhamma masankata mappati kulang Madhurami mangpagunang suvibhattang Dhamma mi mangsaranatamu pemi Yatta cha dinna mahapala mahu Chatusu suchisu purisa yugesu Atta cha puggala dhamma dasate Sangami mangsara nattamu pemi
Assalamu alaikum. Allahumma anta salam wa minka salam. Hayyana Rabbana bis salam wa adkilna dar as-salam. Tabarakta Rabbana wa ta'alayat. Allahumma alif bayna kulubina wa aslah baynana wa अतकिलना ज़बील अस्सलाम। शुक्र।
नमो अरिहन्ताणम् ॐ नमो सिद्धाणम् ॐ नमो आयर्याणम् ॐ नमो जायाणम् नमो लोहे सब साहूणम् एसो पंच नमकारो सवपावपणासनो मङ्गलाणं च सौवेसिम् परमं हवै मङ्गलं परमं हवै मङ्गलम्।
यथाहुवर्यो यथा रतुष् हशातचितचा भङ्ग्युष्दस्तामनिङ्गौ शोड्यो ननाम् अङ्ग्युष्मस्दै क्षत्रुंशै अहुरै आयिं धरे गोप्यो ददद्वास्तारे यथाहुवर्यो यथा रतुष् अशातचितचा भङ्ग्युष्दस्तामनिङ्गौ शोड्यो ननाम् अङ्ग्युष्मस्दै क्षत्रुंशै अहुरै आयिं धरे गोप्यो ददद्वास्तरे अशिम्वहु वैष्टम् अस्ति उष्टा अस्ति उष्टा अम्मै यः तशै वैष्टै अशिम्।
सतनाम करता पुरख निर्भव निर्वैर अकाल मूर्त अजूनी सैभम गुर प्रसाद आद सच जुगाद सच है भी सच नानक होसी भी सच।
Shema Israel Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Ehad Adonai Ehad Adonai Ehad Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu Ve'al Kulam Salam Aleinu Ve'al Kulam Olam Salam 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 Aleinu Ve'al Kulam Olam Salam Salam Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu Ve'al Kulam Salam Aleinu Ve'al Kulam Olam Salam 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 Aleinu Ve'al Kulam salam.仏説マカハンニャハラミタ信行漢字財宝作業人ハンニャハラミタジ証券語雲海空道一切空役者利子式不意空空不意式即税空即税式重創業式略部尿税者利子税商法空想不償不滅不空不上不増不減税国重無式無重創業式無限に微絶心に無式証拠未速報無限界内し無意識界無無明薬薬明人内し無老死薬無老死人無空十滅度無知薬無得意無ショットコボ大サッタエハンニャハラミタコシンムケゲムケゲコムクフオンリ一切天道無足行涅槃三世小仏へ般若ハラミタコ徳アノクタラ三脈三宝大高知般若ハラミタ税大人種税大名種税無常種税無東道種農場一切空真実不公公説般若ハラミタ種即摂取圧ギャテギャテハラギャテハラソギャテボジソワカ般若心経
All are one, indeed, a beautiful representation of all faiths at His divine lotus feet, brothers and sisters. Dear delegates, being here is certainly not a coincidence. Each one of us sitting here has been handpicked by Swami himself. So what does that mean? It means, like Brother Sumit said, there's a huge responsibility on our shoulders. The love of our Divine Master is not only manifesting here in Sathya Sai Grama or in Raipur or in Delhi, but indeed in every single place around the world. Swami has been traveling around the globe, not only to fulfill the promises he gave so many thousands of his devotees, but also to touch people and touch them in a way like never before. And of course, to initiate them into the path of the various service projects that he has initiated over the last few years.
Dear devotees, this week-long celebration leading up to his 91st birthday is a power-packed, battery-charging session for our mind, body, and soul, so that we can transform ourselves to being beacons of light in the world and to carry out acts of selfless love and selfless service.
Swami has blessed 2 youth speakers this morning as we commence the session. Our first speaker is a lady delegate, Dr. Nisha Sivan from Singapore. She's completed her medical training from Manchester in the United Kingdom. Born into a Sai family, Dr. Nisha is the 3rd generation to bask in Swami's love. She's currently based in Singapore, and she will pursue her specialist training as per Bhagwan's command. And her only aim is to contribute and to offer herself to Swami's mission by serving at the Shri Sathya Sai Sanjeevani Hospital. Brothers and sisters, a very warm welcome to Dr. Nisha Sivan.
I offer my most humble pranams to the lotus feet of our most beloved Bhagwan. Swami, thank you for giving me this opportunity to speak today. Sai Ram, aunties and uncles, sisters and brothers. I grew up in Singapore, and my grandmother took me for Bala Vikas classes from the age of 5. For the last 7 years, I've been living in Manchester, UK. I went there first to study medicine, and then I've been working for the last 2 years as a doctor. I had a desire to go to Sri Sathya Sai Sanjeevani Hospital in Raipur. When my mother told Swami that I wanted to volunteer, Swami was pleased. He said it would be good for me to go. I thought I would be offering my services as a doctor there. However, when I went there, I soon discovered that I was not able to do so because I couldn't speak Hindi. I was initially disappointed. But I soon started to realize why Swami said that it would be good for me to go. Here in this hospital, in the middle of a relatively remote part of India, I started to discover what I had lost for the last 7 years. I began thinking of Swami all the time, and all because I saw Swami's ideal of selfless service in action. The doctors and the other healthcare professionals all displayed values that Swami has always promoted. Their care and compassion was so great. They were not working for financial gain, but they were working for the love of serving others. They had hardly any concern for themselves, and all of their concern was for these poor families that had traveled from across India and beyond for care in a time of desperation. So I saw Swami's compassionate love at all levels. For example, the patients were being seen continuously by the cardiologist performing the echocardiograms. Even though he was so busy, he always took the time to explain to every patient and parent the condition in the simplest of terms. No parent's question was dismissed, and he treated with every single patient with love and compassion. Now, seeing these people at work made me want to be a better doctor, a better human being. This hospital was like a temple for me, a temple of transformation. Whilst watching the team operate on a young child in theatre, I realized God's grace was experienced in so many different ways. The anaesthetist, the surgeon, the perfusionist were all working to optimize the life of this child. However, this suffering child was not the only recipient of seva. He himself was providing the ultimate seva of transformation to so many others, including the onlooker, myself. I now realize that every single person that I serve has been given as a blessing from Swami so that I can serve him and transform myself. My grandfather always had Swami's teaching in his heart. Service to man is service to God. I'm looking forward to my medical training, and I hope to use these skills to help you, Swami. Swami, thank you for setting up all these different institutions so that we can grow spiritually. And Swami, please bless us so that we learn to love one another in the same way that you love us. Sai Ram.
Thank you, Dr. Nisha. Our next speaker is Brother Marko Scugar, a Sayut from Croatia, and has been a devotee of Bhagwan Baba for the past 2 decades. Brother Marko is currently based in Germany and is a PhD student studying DNA nanotechnology at Bonn University. Brother Marko has been deeply inspired by Swami, and today he will speak about his journey of transformation inspired by Bhagwan Sri Sathya Sai Baba. Brother Marko.
Om Shri Sai Ram. Dear Swami, I offer these words at your lotus feet. Dear brothers and sisters, everything that Swami does, he is doing it for us, for our benefit, for our transformation. And so I decided today to share my story of transformation with you all. 20 years ago, I became a devotee of Swami and joined Balvika's group in Croatia, where Swami has been teaching me about the essence of 5 human values: Prema, Shanti, Ahimsa, Dharma, and Sathya. As years went by, I was living modestly, but comfortably. I was learning, observing, experiencing, and understanding. But there was something missing. I realized that for true growth, I would need to be challenged. I would need to face obstacles, maybe even suffer a little. And so to do that, I chose the path of science. Science and my studies of science have given me insight into the creation that Swami has made all around the world. And it is amazing. It is fascinating. It is perfect. Swami has also granted me, through science, further knowledge of how to think. And most importantly, with science, I was able to go abroad to study in international colleges. That led me to DNA nanotechnology, with which I went to Bonn University. DNA is a divine structure, perfect. And I wished to understand more of it by making new things with it. However, it was also fun to do it. My work was sometimes more fun than serious work. And ultimately, my conclusion was that this doctoral degree that I would be receiving is irrelevant. It is of little importance to the real doctoral degree that I would be given, Swami's doctoral degree in life. Because there, I was alone, by choice, to face the obstacles with Swami, to face the challenges bravely. That has led me to understand myself more profoundly. I was able to learn, I was able to understand myself. So, now, when I look back at these difficulties, how they made me grow, I'm grateful to Swami. And also, I was putting myself in situation. I was there to put myself in situations where all my intelligence, all my resourcefulness, and all that I did meant nothing. I want to put myself in situations where all I have is the grace of Swami, where all that I do means nothing compared to what Swami is willing. That made me realize that there is nothing but Swami, that there is no one but Swami, that there is only Swami. And this made me think how life with Swami is life made easy. True spirituality and a spiritual path is indeed difficult at first, but it gets easier as you go along. And this is how I imagine Satya Yuga to be like. effortless, with love freely flowing between us. However, there was one very important motivation for me to pursue the path of personal transformation so strongly. And that was the will, the wish to serve Swami. Swami, I wish to serve you by serving the world. And I wish to help you bring Satya Yuga about. And so, I offer my services to you. Jai Sai Ram.
Thank you, Brother Marco. Our next speaker this morning is Srimati Malika Srinivasan, Chairperson and Chief Executive Officer of TAFE. She's been at the lotus feet of Bhagwan along with her family for many, many decades. TAFE is the world's third largest manufacturer of agricultural tractors and has a global footprint with a presence across 80 countries or more. Srimati Malika is on the board of many multinational companies, including ACCO Corporation in the United States of America, Tata Steel, Tata Global Beverages, apart from many, many others. Srimati Malika is associated with women development programs and has been involved in a range of charitable activities in the spheres of education and healthcare and in the area of social responsibility in agriculture and rural development. Brothers and sisters, may we please invite Srimati Malika Srinivasan to address all of us this morning.
Om Shri Sai Ram. I offer my most humble pranams at the lotus feet of our beloved Bhagwan. And on this special day that he has ordained as Ladies' Day, I pray to him on behalf of all the women present here to shower on all of us his divine grace and blessings. Respected elders, brothers and sisters, and delegates at this International Youth Meet 2016. I am humbled and honored to have this opportunity to share my reflections on Bhagwan Baba as the divine teacher who has shaped young minds, redefined the purpose and essence of education, evoked the spirit of self-confidence in youth, and transformed young hearts towards building a more humane society. Swami has often said of his devotees and students, "You are my true miracles, not the visiting cards of small mahimas." For it is our transformation that is his mission, the transformation of each one of us into a true human being by eradicating those animal characteristics within us and bringing to bloom the finer human qualities that is inherent in each of us. In his mission of transformation, the youth and the students have been dearest to the Sathya Sai avatar. The students and youth of today are the citizens of tomorrow, and each of your hands lies the world of tomorrow. Bhagwan has trained and groomed his students personally, and the youth who graduate from the Sathya Sai organizations have a unique demeanor about them. They combine intelligence, diligence, hard work, courtesy, and politeness with humility and spirituality. All Sathya Sai alumni are straightforward, trustworthy, and caring. When I first began interacting with Sathya Sai youth many years ago, I found these young men and women awe-inspiring. But I wondered whether they would survive in the rough and tumble of the outside world. How wrong I was. As the years passed, I saw Swami's students rise up the corporate ladder, contribute very positively, confidently be themselves, continue to draw guidance from Bhagavan's teachings, and change the boardroom dynamics with their poised and righteous behavior. They were dealing with the world differently, but very well. Slowly, I began to understand why. The end of education is character, says Bhagavan. Towards this, the Sathya Sai curriculum gives as much importance to human values as it does to science, mathematics, or economics. A true man has the fine qualities of compassion, prema, daya, tolerance, sympathy, truth, and sacrifice. Anger, hatred, jealousy, and arrogance are the baser qualities that the essence of the Sri Sathya Sai education has been to eradicate these in a disciplined manner and develop the finer human qualities. Further, in this education with human values, the principles of Satya, Dharma, Shanti, Prema, and Ahimsa form the framework, the guiding principles along which all decisions are taken and all behavior is patterned. This education awards self-confidence, the courage to depend on one's own strength. It empowers each one to boldly set forth into the world to achieve ambitious goals in a confident, righteous way. Each Sathya Sai youth creates his or her own ripple of change, which in turn has developed slowly but surely into a large wave of change for human society, with Bhagavan Sri Sathya Sai Baba's blessed students increasingly occupying the highest echelons of office in every sphere of human endeavor. The delegates, the youth gathered here today at this International Youth Meet are truly blessed to have the unique advantage of an education, an approach to life that has the potential to fill you with self-confidence. Self-confidence is realizing that God is within oneself, and if one goes forward on this belief and with an unwavering love for the divinity, life is bound to be fulfilling. For as Bhagavan has said, I am always with you, in you, above you, beside you, around you. When you recognize me as the dweller in your heart, you will walk on the path of self-knowledge, self-confidence, self-satisfaction, and self-realization. I did not have the good fortune of being Bhagavan's student in the traditional definition of the term, but had the good fortune of coming into his fold early in my career. To me personally, Bhagavan's teachings and personal guidance at all times have been the greatest and most immeasurable source of wealth. He has guided me step by step through my career at every twist and turn, cautioning, encouraging, teaching, and ensuring that his emphasis on human values was upheld. I have often been asked as to how one deals with the business environment and its demands, and whether it's really possible to apply Swami's teachings in this environment. Surely possible is my response. And with the youth here today who aspire to be in the corporate sector, I'd like to share a few examples. Recalling the words of Bhagavan, be like a lotus, unaffected by the slush where it is born, or even the water that sustains it. Bhagavan has always stressed the importance of sweet speech and influence over haughty authoritarianism. I saw my father practice it and tried to emulate. One can be firm and strong, but polite and effective. And this is an approach that has worked well, and more importantly, it makes one happy that one is able to achieve results in a positive, constructive way. Another example, conflict is common and decision-making an essential part of corporate leadership. The principle of Raj Dharma, taking decisions in line with dharmic principles, fair, just, objective decision in the larger interest of the organization and not in favor of a favorite aide or a colleague is a critical learning. Such an approach creates a non-political, good working atmosphere, making the organization a good place to work in, a preferred employer of choice. Bhagwan has always encouraged us, and me personally, to aspire higher. Ambition is not a bad word, but in doing so, dharma and artha need to be and can be blended beautifully together for the prosperity of all. Love and service are the essential underpinnings of Bhagwan's teachings. And while no doubt profit is a primary purpose of business, Bhagwan's emphasis on human values has brought to us, me and my family, a clear understanding that this profit needs to be used wisely for both the sustained growth of the business and the betterment and transformation of the lives of those less fortunate. As I was reflecting on Bhagwan's teaching and their application in our professional and personal lives, last night I asked my husband what his singularly most important learning from Swami was that found application in his corporate life. And I'd like to share with you his response. Swami has taught me that I must do my best in every field of endeavor and leave the fruits of the action to him. Secondly, Swami has taught me that the opposites, pain and pleasure, are two sides of the same coin, and to accept them with equal poise. These I seek to apply, and this can be applied in every profession. Delegates and friends, learning is a continuous journey. And while urging the youth of today to go forward with self-confidence, with an approach anchored in human values, I'd like to conclude with the words of Bhagwan that have been to me the most inspiring. Life is a challenge, meet it. Life is a dream, realize it. Life is a game, play it. Life is love, enjoy it. Jai Sai Ram.
Swami has just commanded Padma Shri Venu Srinivasan, the Chairman and Managing Director of the TVS Group, to speak. Please welcome Padma Shri Venu Srinivasan ji.
Om Shri Sai Ram. Shri Narayana Charanau Sharanam Prapatye Srimate Sai Narayanaya Namaha. We humbly surrender at the feet of our Sai Narayana. For the youth, it is very difficult to understand and accept that life is as it is, as it comes, and go with the flow. The spirit of youth, the surge of blood and emotions, and the feeling of newfound strength goes to the mind, and you believe that you can conquer the world and change everything. That is part of life, that is part of the drama of Swami. If that were not there, change would not occur. So you need to have that spirit to fight, the spirit to change the things you can. But as you come closer to Swami and Swami's teachings, you realize that there are limits to change, and he will give you the wisdom to know the things that you cannot change and accept them as his will. This is the maturity that comes from youth to middle age, when you really are at your productive best. But it is not possible to reach that without going through this, as our brother from Croatia said, give me even challenges and suffering, because it is through that steel is tempered, heat treated, and made into very strong steel that is usable as tools, usable for structures, and usable to create the new world that Swami desires. The most important lesson for me has been what my wife said when we were discussing last night. Really is that we have to accept the opposites and go beyond the opposites. Pain and pleasure, Swami always says a pleasure is an interval between two pains. Pain is an interval between two pleasures. And Swami, as he used to say in his inimitable way, bumpsu, jumpsu. Bumps and jumps are part of life. But ultimately you realize that they are both the same, and I think that is really the equanimity that I have experienced coming to Swami. All this is ultimately a drama, all this is Maya, and that neither imposter of success or defeat, they are two imposters. And look them in the eye in the same way. Don't get carried away by fame, wealth, power, beauty. All these will disappear with time. And therefore, the greatest benefit I have achieved, I have obtained with this grace, is equanimity. And I don't know, he asked me to speak today out of the blue. And in any case, Swami has taught me never to prepare a speech. Always stand up and let him speak through you. Be like the flute, hollow, and let him blow his blissful holy breath through you. So this equanimity is what is the goal of all religions. Bliss is the goal of all religions, and with his grace, I have been able to taste a little bit of it. Jai Sai Ram.
Our next speaker is Shri B.N. Narasimhamurthy, Chief Mentor of the Sri Sathya Sai Lokaseva institutions. Shri Narasimhamurthy has served as a warden for the various campuses, Prashantanilayam, Vrindavan, Alike, and Muddenahalli of the Sathya Sai institutions for over 40 years, and has overseen generations of students right from the 1980s. He came to Swami at the tender age of 19 and has authored several books, including volume 5, 6, and 7 of Bhagwan Baba's biography, Satyam Shivam Sundaram. Shri Narasimhamurthy has dedicated his life for the mission of Baba, and in fact has become more busy in the educare mission over the past 4 years, spearheading the setup of educational institutions. Please welcome Shri B.N. Nasirmurthy.
The greatest inspirer of the youth and students, our Divine Master, Bhagwan Shri Sathya Sai Baba. Very esteemed elders, delegates to the World Youth Meet, students, dear brothers and sisters. At the outset, I would like to congratulate the two young, brilliant speakers and also the two very wise and mature speakers who preceded me. Dr. Nisha, standing on the threshold of life, she is very, very fortunate to have recognized the truth that was brought out by a great missionary, a great medical professional, and a great servant of humanity, Dr. Albert Schweitzer. Born in Germany, he was well known even at the age of 25 as a doctor of philosophy and also a very talented musician, a violinist. He was known almost all over Europe as a great musician. When he was 28 years old, he read in some newspapers that in Belgian Congo, the Central Africa, people were dying of some unknown disease. Can you believe, my dear students, young men and women? We also have students, apart from the delegates to the World Youth Conference who have assembled here from all over the world, we also have students from 3 campuses in Chikbalapur district. We have students from KV campus, students from Nagarjuna Engineering College, students from SJC IT Engineering College in Chikbalapur district. Can you imagine what he did? He was at the peak of fame and name and power and wealth. What he did was he gave up everything, joined a medical college, at the age of 35 became a medical doctor, ventured into the unknown forests of Central Africa, lived all his life and served them, and he was awarded Nobel Prize for Peace in the early 50s. He's a great inspiration for all students, for all young men and young women. When he was at the end of his life, on an occasion he was asked to address a group of about 100 young men and young women. Mark these words, which apply to every one of you students and young men and young women who are here. He said, I do not know what your destiny will make you. I do not know where your future will take you, but one thing I am certain. Those of you who will find true happiness in life would be those who would have sought and discovered the secret of selfless service. This is what he said. It is true of young, it is true of the old. This is a secret which keeps old people going with young spirits. When you love and serve selflessly, the energy of God will become yours. The strength in the body will not matter. The Spirit takes over and does through you things which even you cannot imagine. Dr. Nisha said she has chosen a way of life at that young age. We should be very proud of her, born in the family of devotees of Bhagavan Sri Sathya Sai Baba, the granddaughter of Dr. Kandaswamy Pillai, who took Swami's name and message to Singapore for the first time along with Dr. Yo, who is still with us. She has learned, even when entering into public life, the social life, the secret of life, the secret of true happiness, to love and to serve. When Brother Malkov was speaking from Croatia, he brought out the unity of science and spirituality. He said how research in science, research into DNA field leads him to recognize the truth of God. It brought to my mind the statement of Dr. Albert Einstein, one of the most celebrated scientists. Einstein at some point of time said, science without religion is lame. Religion without science is blind. What an understanding for a young man to marry the best of science, best of technology on one side, and best of religion on the other side. And my very reverential congratulations to both Mrs. Malika Srinivasan and Brother Venu Srinivasan. They walk their talk. They're not just words. They have combined the highest principles of teachings of Bhagavan Baba into the corporate world. This is the future of the corporate world. Without spirituality, without principles of dharma, corporate world would become a jungle of self-seeking and of greed, which has brought the world today to the brink of environmental disaster. How a person with spirituality can succeed in business, in industry. I tell you, the couple are a great example for all the corporate leaders, not only in India, in the whole world. I am especially grateful to Mrs. Malika Srinivasan for the glowing tribute she paid to Sathya Sai educational system and to the alumni and the students of the Sathya Sai educational system. That is the global model of education. That is the ideal model of education which can salvage the world of today from the utter chaos into which it has landed because of its own follies. My dear brothers and sisters, young men and young women, and the students from Sathya Sai institutions, students from KV campus, students from Nagarjuna College, students from JCIT College, you are very, very fortunate to be sitting here today. You have just now heard two young speakers who are different from the normal youth of the modern youth of the today. They are different. Why are they different? They have taken the right resolve to walk on the path of spirituality, to practice the principles of Bhagavan Sri Sathya Sai Baba, help the world, and also redeem themselves. We also heard very mature and wise speakers, two of them. They're great examples for all of you. And now you are going to listen to the voice of wisdom of God in the form of Bhagavan Sri Sathya Sai Baba. It is the soul of India, the essence of the glorious culture of India, which speaks through Bhagavan Sri Sathya Sai Baba. Arnold Toynbee, one of the celebrated historians, said, at this supremely dangerous moment in the history of mankind, there is only one way of salvation, that is the Indian way, he said. It is not just the Indian way, it is the way of all the divine masters. It is the way of Rama, it is the way of Krishna, it is the way of Buddha, it is the way of Lord Jesus, it is the way of Prophet Muhammad, it is the way of Zoroaster, it is the way of Confucius, it is the way of the great master, all masters, the spiritual luminaries who came up in the firmament of world history at all times. He speaks the language of love. He walks the path of service. That is the ideal which we need today. With these words I conclude and pray to Bhagavan Baba to grant his divine inaugural message for this World Youth Meet. Thank you.
Om Shri Sai Ram. As we pray to Bhagavan to grant his divine message, I perceive him seated here in an ochre robe, and I repeat as he speaks. Satya Dharma Prema Nityamai Undina Pudami Talli Ento Pulakarinchu Satya Dharma Prema Nityamai Undina Pudami Talli Ento Pulakarinchu Vishwa Shantinichu Vivida Saukhyamunichu Satyamaina Mata Sai Mata Satyamaina Mata Sai Mata.
If truth, righteousness, and love rule over the hearts of men and women in this world, Mother Earth would rejoice. Mother Earth would revel in bliss, and she would confer the world peace and all kinds of prosperity, happiness, and joy on all people. This is the word of Sai, which proclaims truth.
Prema Surupulaina Vidyarthinala Yuga Yudullara Bhaktullara.
Embodiments of divine love, students, boys and girls, young men and young women, and devotees.
ఈనాటి ప్రపంచము యందు ఎక్కడ చూసినా మనము అశాంతిని మాత్రం దర్శిస్తున్నామే కానీ ప్రశాంతి కాదు.
Today in the world, when you look around, you find only restlessness, but no peace or no joy.
ఏ ప్రదేశమైనా, రాష్ట్రమైనా, దేశమైనా అశాంతికి గురి అవుతున్నది.
Every state, every nation, every region of the world is subjected to restlessness.
దానికి కారణం ఏమిటి అని మనం విచారించగా,
if you ask the question, why is it so?
మానవుడు పెరుగుతున్న స్వార్థభావమే దానికి ఒక కారణం.
The root cause for all these problems is the selfishness in the hearts of men and women which is on the rise.
నేను నాది అనేటటి చాలా సీమితమైన జీవితాన్ని గడుపుతూ వాళ్ళ స్వార్థ సుప్రయోజమైన నిమిత్తమై బ్రతుకుతున్నారు ఈనాటి మానవులు.
Today's men and women are filled with only selfishness and self-interest and struggle all the time to achieve their selfish goals.
ఈ స్వార్థం వల్ల వాళ్ళ కోసం మాత్రమే యోచిస్తున్నారే కానీ అందరి నిమిత్తమై ఆచరించటం లేదు.
Due to selfishness, they think only of themselves and they don't think of the welfare of others.
ఆహార నిద్ర భయమైతునం చ సామాన్యమేతత్ పశుభిర్నరాణాం.
Food, sleep, fear and procreation are common both to animals and human beings.
ప్రేమో హి తేషావధికో విశేషః ప్రేమ విహీనం పశుభిః సమానః.
The only difference between animals and humans is that selfless love. Any human being without selfless love is worse than an animal.
ఒక కుక్క కూడా రెండు ముక్కలు రొట్టిచ్చినప్పుడు వెంటనే పోకాడు వస్తుంది.
Even a dog, when you throw 2 crumbs of bread, it comes behind you with love and gratitude.
కానీ మానవుడు ఇటువంటి ఒక గ్రాటిట్యూడ్ ప్రేమను కోల్పోయాడు.
But today, man has lost such invaluable selfless love in his life.
ఈ ప్రేమ యొక్క అభావం వల్లనే ఈనాటి ప్రపంచమందు ఇటువంటి ఒక అశాంతమైన వాతావరణం తయారయ్యింది.
Why is the world so much full of restlessness? It is because of bankruptcy of love.
స్వార్థ ప్రయోజన నిమిత్తమై మానవుడు పశువుల కన్నా హీనముగా ప్రవర్తిస్తున్నాడు.
Today's man is behaving worse than an animal in fighting for his selfish ends.
ఇటువంటి ఒక ప్రపంచం లోపల పునః మనము ప్రేమ ధర్మ శాంతిని స్థాపించే నిమిత్తమై ఈ యొక్క యూత్ మీట్ని ఏర్పడినాము.
We have organized this youth meet with the sole motive of bringing back the lofty principles of righteousness, love and peace back into the world.
ఈ ప్రపంచంలో మనము ఇంత ఒక ప్రేమని పెంచున్నప్పుడే ఈ శాంతి కూడా మనము పెంచవచ్చు.
Only when you develop selfless love in your hearts, you can also reap the benefits of peace.
నిన్నటి దినము అందరి కూడా గ్రామ సేవకు పోయారు.
Yesterday, all the youth and students went to serve in the villages.
సర్వీస్ చేస్తున్నప్పుడు ఇంతో అంతో వాళ్ళ ప్రసాదం అంతా కూడా అందించిన తర్వాత ఒక ప్రేమ భావం వల్ల వాళ్ళ లోపల కూడా కొన్ని మార్పులు జరిగినాయి.
While serving the villagers, they offered them some food and clothing, but because of the love that pervaded the atmosphere, they could also experience some joy and peace in their hearts.
యూత్ మీట్ లోపల బెండ్ ద బాడీ అనేటది పర్పతమైనది.
In the youth meet, the fundamental theme is bend the body and end the mind.
ఈ బాడీ దేని నిమిత్తమై ఇచ్చాడు భగవంతుడు?
Why has God given the body to us?
ఈ పొట్ట పాకులాడే నిమిత్తమేనా?
Is it just to struggle for livelihood?
కాదు కాదు.
Not at all.
పరోపకారార్థం ఇదం శరీరం.
This body is given to us in order to help others.
పరులను సేవించే నిమిత్తమై ఈ దేహాన్ని మనకు అందించాడు పరమాత్ముడు.
God has gifted this body to us in order to help and serve others.
ఈ దేహము శుద్ధంగా ఉండినప్పుడు ఈ యౌవనావస్థ లోపల సేవలో దాన్ని మనం పెట్టాలి.
When you are young, when the body is strong, that is the time we should take to selfless service.
కాబట్టి బెండ్ ద బాడీ మని అనగా ఏదో యోగాసనములు చేయటము, ఎక్సర్సైజ్ చేయటము, దాని తర్వాత మన ఆరోగ్యాన్ని కాపాడడం మాత్రము కాదు.
When we say bend the body, it does not mean that you practice some physical postures of yoga for health and stamina of the body.
అవన్నీ అవసరమే, కానీ దానికన్నా ముఖ్యమైనది సేవార్థం మనము ఈ బాడీని బెండ్ చేయాలి.
All those things are very important, no doubt, but what it means is you have to bend the body in order to serve others.
నడుము వంచి ఇతరులను సేవించినప్పుడే నిజమైన ఇది బెండ్ ది బాడీ అవుతుంది.
Only when you serve others selflessly, that is the true meaning of the sentence bend the body.
ఈ సేవ చేస్తే మనకేమో లభిస్తుంది?
If you involve yourself in service, what is that you are going to gain?
Mend the senses.
You will be able to mend the senses.
ఈ సెన్సెస్ అనేటువంటి పవిత్రముగా గావించే నిమిత్తమై నిస్వార్థమైన సేవ అత్యవసరము.
In order to sublimate, in order to purify the senses, selfless service is very important.
ఈ సెన్సెస్ ఎటువంటివి అంటే బహిరంగముగానే పోతూ ఉంటాయి.
Senses all the time go outwards.
శబ్ద స్పర్శ రూప రస గంధము తాను అనుభవించే నిమిత్తమై ఎన్నో విధమైన కష్టములకు గురి అవుతుంటాయి మన ఈ ఇంద్రియాలు.
The senses go always after the various pleasures of sound, touch, and taste and fragrance.
కానీ దీన్ని మనం బహిరంగము కాకుండా అంతర్ముఖము చేసినప్పుడు అది మెండ్ ద సెన్సెస్.
When you turn the senses, these senses which go outward, inward into yourself, that is the mend the senses.
ఈ 5 ఇంద్రియముల వల్ల మానవుడు ఎన్నో కష్టములకు ఎంతో నష్టములకు గురి అవుతుంటాడు.
Because of lack of control on the senses, men and women subject themselves to great miseries and difficulties.
కురంగ మాతంగ పతంగ మీన భృంగ 5 ఉదాహరణల లోపల మనం ఈ ఇంద్రియ విషయవాంఛనల చేత జరిగిన ఒక నష్టాన్ని గుర్తించవచ్చు.
We can recognize how the 5 different non-human creatures get into trouble because of the 5 senses.
కురంగ,
first is kuranga,
deer.
That is the deer.
ఈ డియర్ అనేది అడవి లోపల స్వేచ్ఛతో తిరుగుతూ ఉంటుంది, కానీ ఒక శబ్దం విన్నప్పుడు ఆ శబ్దానికి గురి అయిపోయి కష్టంలో పడుతుంది.
The deer is free, moves around in the forest happily, but when it listens to a sound, it gets attracted and subject itself to imprisonment.
ఒక నిషాదుడు సౌండ్ చేసిన వల్ల ఈ డియర్ని తన వైపు ఆకర్షించి పట్టుపడుతాడు.
A hunter creates some kind of sound by which he attracts the deer and captures it.
ఒక సౌండ్ వల్ల ఇటువంటి తన ప్రాణాన్ని తన పోగొట్టుకుంటుంది ఈ మృగము.
Because of the attraction for the sound, deer loses its own life.
మాతంగం అనగా ఏనుగు, ఎలిఫెంట్.
Matanga means elephant.
ఈ ఎలిఫెంట్ని ఏ విధంగా వాళ్ళు పట్టుకుంటారా?
How do they catch or capture an elephant?
మేల్ ఎలిఫెంట్కు ఫీమేల్ ఎలిఫెంట్ని పంపించి పట్టుకుంటారు.
In order to catch a male elephant, they attract it with a female elephant.
ఈ ఆడి దాన్ని పోయినప్పుడు తన యొక్క స్పర్శం వల్ల మైమరిచి పట్టుపడుతున్నాడు ఈ ఒక ఎలిఫెంట్.
The male elephant gets captured because it gets subservient because of the touch of the female elephant.
ఒక స్పర్శం వల్ల తను బంధించుకుంటున్నాడు ఈ మాతంగుడు.
The elephant, it becomes a slave because of its slavery to the sense of touch.
మూడవది పతంగం.
Third is patanga, butterfly.
బటర్ఫ్లై
Moth.
ఈ ప్రకాశంతో ఆకర్షించి ఈ ప్రకాశం లోపల చేరి తనని తను దాహం చేసుకుంటుంటుంది ఈ పతంగము.
A moth is attracted by light and finally burns itself in the flames.
ఒక కన్నుతో ప్రకాశం దర్శించినప్పుడు ఏ మాత్రం తను విచారించుకోకుండా దానిలో పోయి పడి ప్రాణాన్ని పోగొట్టుకుంటుంది ఈ కీమ.
This moth, on seeing some light, without discrimination, it just rushes and burns itself in the flame.
ఓ రూపం అనేటువంటిది ఒకే ఒక ఇంద్రియము చేత నశించుకుంటున్నది తన.
Because of the vision of fire, the moth burns itself.
మీనం.
Finally, the fish.
ఈ ఫిష్ అనేది తన యొక్క రసమును ఆస్వాదించే నిమిత్తమై తనని బంధించుకుంటున్నది.
This fish, in order to have the taste of the bite, the bait, it arrests, it's captured.
కాబట్టి ఒక రసమైనటువంటి ఇంద్రియము చేత గురి అయినప్పుడు తన ప్రాణాన్ని పోగొట్టుకుంటున్నది మీనము.
The fish loses its life being attracted by its tongue for taste.
ఐదవది భృంగ భ్రమరము.
The fifth one is the bee.
ఈ బీ అనేటువంటిది పువ్వుల లోపల ఉండే ఒక గంధాన్ని అది అనుభవించే నిమిత్తమై పువ్వుల లోపలే పడి ప్రాణాన్ని పోగొట్టుతుంది.
The bee is attracted by the fragrance of the flower and gets captured by the flowers.
ఈ విధంగా మనం చూస్తే ఈ 5 విధమైన ఇంద్రియముల చేత ఒక్కొక్క ప్రాణి కూడా తన ప్రాణాన్ని పోగొట్టుకుంటున్నది.
These 5 creatures, because of their weakness of one of their senses, they lose their lives.
ఈ మానవ యందు 5 సెన్సెస్ కూడా చేరి ఉన్నాయి.
But in human beings all the senses are strong.
కాబట్టి వాళ్ళకి ప్రమాదం 5 తూర్లు ఎక్కువ.
Therefore their danger is 5 times more.
ఇటువంటి ఒక బహిరంగము పోతున్న ఒక ఇంద్రియములు మనము నిగ్రహం చేసినప్పుడే మనకు ఈ ప్రమాదము దూరం అవుతుంది.
If you want to get over the danger, the only way is to control the 5 senses.
ఈ సెన్సెస్ ని మనం కంట్రోల్ చేయవలసింది. కానీ ఎట్లా?
We have to control our senses, but how?
ఆ సెన్సెస్ అన్నీ కూడా బహిరంగం పోకుండా అంతర్గతమైన భగవత్ ప్రీతి భగవత్ భక్తిలో చేరుకున్నప్పుడు ఇవి పరిశుద్ధము మనం గావించవచ్చు.
Only way to control the senses is to take the mind inward from the outward pleasures to the inner joy and bliss of divinity within.
ఈ భగవంతు యొక్క భక్తిలో ఉండే ఆనందాన్ని అనుభవించినప్పుడు మిగతావన్నీ కూడా రుచిలేనట్టుగా అనిపిస్తాయి.
When you experience the joy and bliss of devotion to God, all other things become tasteless.
కాబట్టి అటు యొక్క భగవంతుడి భక్తిలో మనం మనసు చేర్చుకున్నప్పుడు ఇంద్రియములను మనము సరిగా నిగ్రహం చేయడం సాధ్యము.
Therefore, in order to control the senses, it is necessary we fill our hearts with devotion to God.
ఇవన్నీ చేసినప్పుడు ఈ మనసంతా కూడా ఎండ్ అయిపోతుంది.
When you do all this, finally the mind
What
ends.
is mind?
What is mind?
Bundle of thoughts.
Mind is nothing but a bundle of thoughts.
ఈ యొక్క బట్ట లోపల ఏ విధంగా దారములన్నీ కూడా అడ్డముగా నిలువుగా మనం పుట్టినప్పుడు ఆ బట్టగా మారిపోతున్నదో ఆ విధముగానే థాట్స్ చేరినప్పుడు మైండ్ అనేటువంటి స్వరూపాన్ని ధరిస్తుంటుంది.
A cloth gets its form because of the vertical and horizontal threads. Similarly, mind gets a form because of the desires.
ఈ డిజైర్స్ థాట్స్ అనేటివి తనందు తను చేర్చుకొని ఈ మైండ్ అనే స్వరూపాన్ని ధరిస్తున్నది.
The mind gets its form because of these desires and thoughts.
ఒక బట్ట ముక్క లోపల ఉండే దారంను మనం తీసి విడివిడి చేసేస్తే ఆ బట్ట కూడా విడిపోతుంది.
When you remove the threads from a cloth, finally the cloth will disappear.
ఈ విధముగానే ఈ థాట్స్ అనేటివి మనము మైండ్ నుంచి తీసినప్పుడు మైండ్ కూడా ఎండ్ అయిపోతుంది.
Similarly, when you remove the thoughts and desires from the mind, mind also will end.
ఒక తెల్ల బట్ట లోపల తెల్లటి దారం చేరి ఉన్నాయని మనం తెలుసుకోవచ్చు.
In a white cloth, we can know that there are white threads.
రెడ్ క్లాత్ లోపల రెడ్ థ్రెడ్స్ చేరిన వల్ల అది రెడ్ క్లాత్ అని మనం చెప్తున్నాము.
Because of red threads, it looks red.
బ్లాక్ థ్రెడ్స్ ఉంటే అదే బ్లాక్ క్లాత్ గా మారిపోతుంది.
If there are black threads, there are.
కాబట్టి ఎటువంటి థ్రెడ్స్ ఉన్నాయో అటువంటిదే క్లాత్.
The cloth depends. The color of the cloth depends on the thread.
ప్యూర్ థాట్స్ ఉన్నప్పుడు ప్యూర్ మైండ్.
When you have pure thoughts, you have a pure mind.
కానీ ఇంప్యూర్ థాట్స్ చేరినప్పుడు అదే ఇంప్యూర్ మైండ్.
When you have impure thoughts, you have an impure mind.
నేను నాది అనేటువంటిది స్వార్థమైన భావన చేసుకున్నప్పుడు అదే మైండ్ అంతా ఇంప్యూర్ అయిపోతుంది.
When you fill your mind with the feelings of I and mine, it becomes impure.
కానీ మనం అనేటువంటిది విశాలత్వమైన పొందినప్పుడు ప్యూర్ మైండ్ అయిపోతుంది.
Instead of I and mine, we develop the broad-mindedness of we and ours, then it becomes pure mind.
ఇతడు మనవాళ్ళు అది మనవాళ్ళు కారు అనేటువంటి లఘుతనము మన లోపల రాకూడదు.
We should not allow the narrow-mindedness which makes us think this person belongs to me, other person does not belong.
అయం బంధు అయం నాస్తి.
He is my relative, other is not my relative.
గణనా లఘు చేతసాం. గణనా లఘు చేతసాం.
That is the thought or attitude of the narrow-minded people.
ఉదార చరితానాంతు.
For broad-minded people,
వసుదైవ కుటుంబకం.
the whole world is one
ఈ
family.
వరల్డే మన ఫ్యామిలీ అనుకుంటుంది, విశాలమైన ఒక మనసు.
A broad mind always thinks the whole world is one family.
అందరి మనవాళ్ళు అనుకున్నప్పుడు స్వార్థంకి ఎట్టి అవకాశం ఉండదు.
When you think that everybody belongs to us, we don't have any selfishness.
నిన్నటి రోజు గ్రామ సేవ లోపల ఏమి నేర్చుకున్నారు మీరు?
When you went for village service, what did you
బాడీని
learn
బెండ్
there?
చేసి సర్వ్ చేశారు.
You bent your body and served.
దానివల్ల మన సెన్సెస్ అన్నీ కూడా ప్రేమతో నిండిపోయి భక్తిలో చేరిపోయింది.
Your senses were filled with selfless love and devotion to God.
ఈ భక్తి మార్గంలో చేరుతున్న సెన్సెస్ అన్నీ కూడా భక్తి మార్గంలో మీరు చేర్చుకున్నారు సేవ వల్ల.
Through service, you have transformed the senses which go for worldly pleasures to come back
అవే
towards
చేతులు,
divine pleasure.
అవే చెవులు, అవే కన్నులు, అవే శబ్దము, అన్ని సెన్సెస్ అవి ఉండగానే ఆ భక్తిలో పెట్టినప్పుడు అన్ని కూడా ఆనందకరంగా మీరు అనుభవించారు.
The same senses, same eyes, same ears, same feet, same hands, you used it in selfless service, you could enjoy some peace of mind and
అటువంటి
happiness.
సమయంలో అందరూ మనవాళ్ళ మనస్సు తన పరిమితమైన ఒక దాన్ని వదిలి విశాలత్వాన్ని పొందింది.
In an atmosphere of selfless service, the mind which normally is narrow-minded to think of I and my, it develops a broad-mindedness.
ఈ నారో మైండ్ని మనం ఎండ్ చేసుకొని బ్రాడ్ మైండ్గా మనం పెంచుకున్నాము.
We ended the narrow-mindedness and developed broad-mindedness.
ఇండివిజువల్ మైండ్ని మనము యూనివర్సల్ మైండ్ చేసుకున్నాము.
We transformed individual mind into universal mind.
ఏ విధంగా నదులన్నీ ప్రవహించి కట్టకడపటికి సాగరంలో చేరిపోయి తన యొక్క స్వరూపాన్ని మనం రచించి సాగరం స్వరూపాన్ని ధరిస్తున్నదో ఆ విధంగా ఇండివిజువల్ మైండ్స్ అన్నీ కూడా కలిసినప్పుడు యూనివర్సల్ మైండ్, అదే గాడ్ మైండ్ అయిపోతుంది.
In the same way as all the rivers, when they finally merge in the ocean, they lose themselves and become ocean itself. Similarly, individual minds lose themselves in selfless service into the universal
ఈ
mind.
సేవ ద్వారా పరిశుద్ధమైన ఇంద్రియములు మనం పొంది మైండ్ని మనము సెల్ఫిష్ నుంచి సెల్ఫిష్లెస్ లాగా తీసుకుపోయినప్పుడే మనము ఈ యూత్ మీటు సార్థకం అనుకోవాలి.
When you involve yourselves in selfless service and purify your senses and broaden your mind, that is the right goal of this youth meet, and it will be a success then only.
ఈ ప్రపంచంలో అందరి కోసము కావాల్సిన అన్ని కూడా భగవంతుడు దండిగానే అందించాడు, కానీ తక్కువ కాలేదు.
All the needs of all the people in the world, God has given abundantly. There is nothing lacking.
ఎవరి పైన ప్రేమ, ఇతరి పైన ద్వేషము అనేటువంటిది భగవంతుడికి లేదు. అందరిని సమానంగా పంచుకుంటూ వచ్చాడు దైవము.
God shares his love equally with everybody, and it does not differentiate.
కానీ మన మానవుల లోపల స్వార్థం చేరిన వల్ల కొందరికి ఎక్కువ, కొందరికి తక్కువ అనేటువంటి మనం అందిస్తున్నాము.
But we human beings, because we are filled with selfishness, we think others are only few people belong to us, others don't belong
ఒక
to us.
పశువు కూడా తనకి ఎంత అవసరమో అంత మాత్రమే భుజిస్తుంది, కానీ అనవసరమైన ఎవరిని అతను కష్టపెట్టదు.
Even an animal eats just enough to fill its belly. It does not trouble others by hoarding.
ఈనాటి కావాల్సిన మాత్రం భుజించి సంతోషించి ఆ భగవత్ ఒక విశ్వాసం వల్ల రేపటి దినం కూడా భగవంతుడు నాకు కావాల్సిన అందిస్తాడు అని చక్కగా తిని పడుకుంటుంది.
Even an animal eats just enough for that day, doesn't bother about the next day. It has the faith that God will give me food next day also, therefore it is very happy.
కానీ మానవుడు ఫ్యూచర్ అని చింతలో పడి దానికోసము స్వార్థులు అయిపోతున్నాడు.
Man is worried about the future and becomes absolutely selfish.
ఈ సెల్ఫిష్నెస్ వచ్చినప్పుడు ఇతరులు ద్వేషించటము, దూషించటము, ఇంకా కష్టపెట్టడము జరుగుతున్నది.
When one becomes selfish, he will criticize others, he will trouble others, he will harm others.
కానీ సంతోషం అనేది చెప్పిందమ్మా, కంటెంట్మెంట్ చాలా అవసరం.
It's very important to have contentment,
ఈ
true
రోజు
happiness.
భగవంతుడు మనకు అందించాడు, రేపటి దినం ఆయనే మనం చూసుకుంటాడు అనేటువంటి విశ్వాసం మనం పెంచుకున్నప్పుడు ఏ మాత్రం మనం స్వార్థులు కాము.
When we have the faith that God has given me enough today and tomorrow also he is going to give me enough, you will not become selfish.
కాబట్టి నేను నిస్వార్థ భావంతో అందరినీ సేవించవచ్చు.
Then you will be able to serve others selflessly.
నేను నా నిమిత్తమే యోచించే అవసరం లేదు, భగవంతుడు నన్ను చూసుకుంటాడు, నేను వేరే వాళ్ళ సేవలు చేయాలా.
I need not have to worry about myself, I have to serve others, God will look after
ఈ
me.
సర్వీస్ నుంచి ప్రారంభమైనప్పుడు బెండ్ ద బాడీ, దాంట్లో మెండ్ ద సెన్సెస్, అటోమేటిక్ ఎండ్ ద మైండ్ అయిపోతుంది.
When you involve yourself in selfless activities, that is bend the body, then comes the mend the senses and end the mind ultimately.
దీని గురించి ఇంకా మనము సూక్ష్మంగా విస్తృతంగా ఈ వచ్చే రోజుల లోపల చెప్పుకుంటాము, వింటాము.
Over the next few days, we are going to learn more and more about this theme of the World Youth Meet.
కానీ చాలా సులభంగా చెప్పినప్పుడు సర్వీస్ ద్వారానే మనము నిర్వాణము పొందగలుగుతాము అనేటువంటి దాని యొక్క అంతరార్థం ఉన్నది. సేవ బినా నిర్వాణ నహి.
The inner significance of this particular theme is only through selfless service you will attain nirvana or liberation.
కాబట్టి మీరందరూ కూడా అమృత పుత్రులు.
All of you are children of immortality.
ఆనంద స్వరూపులు.
You are the embodiments of bliss.
దివ్యాత్మ స్వరూపులు.
We are the embodiments of the divine Atma.
దివ్య ప్రేమ స్వరూపులు.
You are the embodiments of divine love.
ఒక ఉన్నతమైన ఒక మానవ జన్మాన్ని ధరించిన తర్వాత పశువులుగా ప్రవర్తించటము చాలా అగౌరవము.
After having got this highest birth as human beings, to behave as animals is a shame.
మనము వదిలిపెట్టి సెల్ఫ్లెస్ అనేటిది మనము భావించాలి.
We have to give up selfishness and develop selflessness.
అందరి మనవాళ్ళు విశాలమైన మనోభావాన్ని మనం పెంచుకోవాలి.
We have to develop the broad mind that everybody belongs to us.
ఇటువంటి ఒక మాటలని మీరు నేర్చుకొని చక్కగా జీర్ణించి ప్రవర్తనలో పెట్టి తద్వారా మీరు ఈ ఆనందాన్ని అనుభవిస్తారనేది ఆశీర్వదిస్తూ ఈనాటి ప్రసంగాన్ని ఇక్కడ ముగిస్తున్నాను. వచ్చే రోజుల లోపల మీకు కావాల్సిన ఏమైనా సందేహాలు, సంశయాలు, ప్రశ్నలు ఉంటే మీరు పంపించండి. దానికి నేను అన్ని జవాబు చెప్తాను.
I conclude my discourse aspiring and blessing all of you that you would learn what you are listening here, contemplate on it, digest it, practice it, and reap the fruits of bliss. And if you have any doubts and questions, you can send the questions. Maybe you can write down in a sheet of paper and send, and Swami will give answers in the evenings.
Very happy. Love is nice.
Love is nice.
Love is my form, truth is my breath, bliss is my food. Love is my form, truth is my breath, bliss is my food. Truth is my breath, bliss is my food. My life is my message, expansion is my life. My life is my message, expansion is my life. My life is my message, expansion is my life. My life is my message, expansion is my life. No reason for love, no season for love, no birth, no death. No reason for love, no season for love, no birth, no death. No reason for love, no season for love, no birth, no death. No reason for love, no season for love, no birth, no death. Sathya dharma ananda, shanti prema himsa. Sathya dharma ananda, shanti prema ananda. Sathya dharma ananda, shanti prema himsa. Sathya dharma ananda, shanti prema ananda. Shri Sai Pati Sai Prema Sai Jai Jai. Shri Sai Pati Sai Prema Sai is my form, truth is my breath, bliss is my food. Love is my form, truth is my breath, bliss is my food. My life is my message, expansion is my life. Life is my message, expansion is my life. No reason for love, no season for love, no birth, no death. No reason for love, no season for love, no birth, no death. Sathya dharma ananda, shanti prema himsa. Shanti prema himsa. Satya dharmananda, shanti premananda. Shirdi Sai Patti Sai Prema Sai Jai Jai. Shirdi Sai Patti Sai Prema Sai Jai Jai. Shirdi Baba Patti Baba Prema Baba Jai Jai. Baba Patti Baba Prema Baba Jai Jai. Love is my form, truth is my breath, bliss is my food. Love is my form, truth is my breath, bliss is my food. Love is my form, truth is my breath, bliss is my food. Love is my form, truth is my breath, bliss is my food. Love is my form, truth is my breath, bliss is my food. Love is my form, truth is my breath, bliss is my food. Love is my form, truth is my breath, bliss is my food. Om Jai Jagadish Hare, Swami Satya Sai Hare, Bhakta Jana Samrakshaka, Bhakta Jana Samrakshaka, Pati Maheshwara, Om Jai Jagadish Hare. Shashivadana Shrikara, Sarva Pranapate, Swami Sarva Pranapate, Ashrita Kalpalatika, Ashrita Kalpalatika, Kapatandava, Om Jai Jagadish Hare. Mata Pita Guru Devam, Mariyantayu Nive, Swami Mariyantayu Nive, Nada Brahma Jagannatha, Nada Brahma Jagannatha, Nagendra Shayana, Om Jai Jagadish Hare. Omkar Rupa Ojasvi Om Sai Mahadeva, Satya Sai Mahadeva, Mangalarati Anduku, Mangalarati Anduku, Mandara Giridhari, Om Jai Jagadish Hare. Narayana Narayana Om Satya Narayana 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 Om Narayana Narayana Om Satya Narayana Narayana Om Satya Narayana Narayana Om Jai Sadguru Deva. Narayana Narayana Om Satya Narayana 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 Om Narayana Narayana Om Satya Narayana Narayana Om Satya Narayana Narayana Om Jai Sadguru Deva. Narayana Narayana Om Satya Narayana 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 Om Narayana Narayana Om Satya Narayana Narayana Om Satya Narayana Narayana Om Jai Sadguru Deva. Om शांति 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 समस्त लोकाः सुखिनो भवन्तु समस्त लोकाः सुखिनो भवन्तु समस्त लोकाः सुखिनो भवन्तु शांति 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 जय बोलो भगवान श्री सत्य साई बाबा जी की जय।